I bet you this old burned out heap would run.
So you'd be shifting it by hand right now, so we'll see. No speedo, that burned out.
Good sign. So, parked it, started troubleshooting, going through, followed, the manual as I always do, going through. Stator tested, fine. Coil cap, spark plug gap, all of that tested fine. Went through the whole process, neutral, reverse, all testing out all of those. Everything tests good, right down to the CDI. Now I even pulled the known good coil off, I just kind of having one of those moments, even though everything tested fine, put it in, nothing. So CDI, this is a knockoff CDI that I was running. This is actually the one that just seems to have failed right over there. The OEM one never had a spark on it. When I was troubleshooting this, I had no spark, so I put in this CDI. So, way to test a CDI, swap in a known good. This ATV had been running for me, but we had broken aluminum down in it. I pull off that CDI. Let's see, that is this one here. And I put that CDI on, I get one spark. One spark, only one spark every time. So if I were to turn it on, neutral, and this key switch is a little funky on here, admittedly. Gotta wiggle it. There it is. Neutral, everything good. And with the other CDI, if I hit the start button, I'll get one spark. This CDI shouldn't have anything. Just like nothing. So it's interesting, and I had another spare CDI, which I believed to have been good, but I couldn't confirm. Also no spark. So I have the OEM, which I have no idea on. I have two knockoffs that give me no spark. And I have the CDI that was running my mom's quad, gives me one spark, and only one spark. Turn it on, it's the first spark. It doesn't spark when you let off the start button, as that would imply relay type issues, the relay swapping over, and that's when you're getting spark, because otherwise it's like a blown relay and you're not getting electrical juice. So it's not that. So I think it's the relay. I have another, I think it's the CDI. I have another CDI on order from another manufacturer. Ultimately, if it solves it, I'm probably gonna have to hunt an OEM CDI. I've had a lot of CDI problems on here, on these Big Bears. The one I did for my brother-in-law was also CDI. I've been through a couple CDIs on my mom's, and it's just they're poor quality or they blow. I went through all the electrical looking for anything I could find, pulling everything apart. I did find one thing. Back here, this ground hanging out of the harness was just clipped. It wasn't attached to anything. So I did splice it in, bring it to the battery, made no difference. So today I have some decisions, because ultimately I was hoping to romp on this one for a little while to kind of really see how well it's going to hold up before I pull it off to ultimately put on the other ATV, and I got to do some head work on there. Do I get this one fixed up, romp on it as it is, or do I start stripping it down, getting this motor out, getting the motor cleaned up, and just move forward, put it in? I know this motor is, was running, starting fine, so Guess I gotta make a decision here. Well, that was an effort. Oh boy. Yeah, there were weird welds, all kinds of mismatched screws, snapping heads off of screws in there, things that are fused together. That was a real mess to get apart, but the motor's out. So we'll end up breaking this down to do a deeper inspection and combining parts. This shift shaft is all flattened and rounded out. And if you notice down here, ended up snapping off bolts. This custom work here to hold the fairings on, there it goes. So we got holes in the frame. This skid plate, like they had to cut holes through, and to get the motor mount off up here, I actually had to get in here with a Dremel and open up these holes to be able to get in here with 12 mil to drop the motor. Allens on this side were either missing or all stripped out. Same thing on the oil filter. Oh, and back here, getting the swing arm out. Yeah, all rusted and fused together, came out as one piece. Pull start, missing an ear. Here's our filter. There's some mud and sludge in here. There's a couple of flecks of aluminum, but really nothing to make me think anything broke. We'll end up reusing these Nerfs. They're okay. Foot pegs are bent to heck. I mean, look at, yeah, oh my goodness. And we have some brakes in the rear grab bar snapped up, things that could be welded if need be. There's a lot of weird built up welds all over this thing. But yeah, so it's taken apart, motor's out. We're going to do some surgery on that motor, combine a few parts so we have a good working motor, and move towards getting the original Big Bear back together, and then we're going to salvage everything we can off of this one. Looks like it's got good diffs, you know, for the four-wheel drive, good suspension. Just frame is shot. A lot of things are shot, but combined we'll have a rolling ATV out of the two of these. You know, I just popped the head off this motor, looking at this gasket, and the whole thing had been installed folded over. Just wild. So they probably had it I mean, I don't know how they had enough compression to run. That's how that gasket was installed and cranked down on. And I'm not actually sure what all this silver on here is. I'm assuming it's some kind of RVT. But holy smokes. What a mess. Alright, I'm going to set this up for a bit because I'm going to pull this head off, take some of the weight off this motor, and I got to drain the oil. Now that I can get at the oil drain plug, I wasn't able to get at it when I was on the ATV because that skid plate just didn't line up and I couldn't get a socket in there. So want to see what the oil is like, and then I'll make a decision. I guess kind of a game day decision how far I'm going to break this motor down or not. One thing I am going to do, swap over to my other stator cover, because you see on this one here
Some of these bolt holes are either snapped off or there's nothing left there. Someone started to drill that one. So with the other motor, I can take this off, swap in a good one. And I do have a full gasket set. So some of those are going to go in here as well. I'm not doing seals. Yeah, I hope I don't regret that. Tell you something else. This oil smells burned. All right, decision time. Everything looks nice and clean around the starter there. And nice and tight. No broken pieces like the other case on this side. I'm not seeing any evidence in that oil, which I am going to drain and inspect shavings. This is probably a combination of things. Shift shaft, which I can get at through the other side of the case, and I want to swap that out. My bad seal. Not tightened down around the oil filter, could be leaking, and some of this is coming up from here, so this looks like they had poor RVT job, etc. So I'm not overly worried about all of this, because we're going to take care of that when we put in new gaskets. Swap this out, we'll take a look at that seal. Piston looks really good. Looks really good. So I think I'm going to put this sleeve back on, the one the piston's been on, but I'm going to have to clean this up pretty good in the part washer. And then we're going to swap the heads. This head has a snapped off head bolt. So we're going to use the other head, marry it to this cylinder, and we'll use that to put back together. So, yeah. Not going to swap a whole lot of things out of here, and not going to crack this if not needed. So we'll take the other side off, the clutch side off, so we can swap out that shift shaft for one with better teeth. We're going to clean up, put some gaskets on, put some things back together here. We'll have this motor in a position to start going back on the frame later on this afternoon. Alright, I've been kind of back and forth on what to do with this top end. Cleaning the gasket off of the sleeve that was on here has proven to be just a real pain. Everything is just really baked on here. And then looking at this, this sleeve looks to be OEM. It's got the Yamaha stamp there. And yeah, the 1UY01. So we have an OEM sleeve on the burned out blaster motor with what looks like a new Wiseco piston. And I can't tell you for sure, but I got a W stamp there and a number. And if I look at the piston coming off of the original Big Bear, this looks Chinese to me. No markings. Nothing anywhere. A little bit of blow by. Now, here is the sleeve that came off of this Big Bear, the original. No markings. So this is a knockoff sleeve. Yep. No Yamaha marking anything down here. Also, this sleeve will not fit on this piston. They're two different kits. This piston is bigger than the aftermarket knockoff kit. So this OEM has either been bored, cleaned up, gone one size up. So I am gonna continue cleaning up this one, cleaning up the gasket so I can reuse this sleeve back on it, which is the sleeve and piston that came on this motor, the one that caught fire. Okay. All right, taking a break for a bit. We got the head back on with gaskets. So we have new gaskets on here, and I did do a touch of Yamaha bond on each side of the gasket because I'm really not happy with these paper gaskets. Really kind of cheap. But we've got this on. We still have to torque down to spec. And this is the original one I was saying going back on here, which is the OEM cylinder plus what I think is a Wiseco piston in there. So I've cleaned up a little bit. I'm going to leave it like this for the evening. It's not supposed to rain, so but anywhere that could get stuff in it, I've got undercover. So the motor's undercover. So that's it for now.